Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today is Bookmas Day 19, so we're going to be talking about the buzz books of 2018, or the books that everyone kept on talking about this year. So I have a giant stack of books here. I also have some that I don't even own yet to talk about. It was really interesting to compile the list for this video because I had my own list and then I went on Twitter and I asked for some more ideas, and you guys really had a lot that you had been hearing about, so this list ended up exploding pretty quickly. It's got a mix of books that were published this year, some that weren't even published this year. It's got a whole lot of everything that just seemed to be all over bookish social media, or at least the people that I follow kept on talking about them. So just like my books everyone on BookTube talks about video, this isn't a bad thing at all. I'm not throwing shade or anything like that, because once again, I would be shading myself, but my list also might not match yours because we might hang out in different areas of bookish internet, but these are just the books that people sent me and I was like, you know what, I've seen that a lot of places too, so I included it in the list. There are definitely some books that have been talked about a lot more recently, but I tried to do ones that stayed relevant throughout the entire year. So with all of that being said, let's get into it. I'm just gonna start off with the books that I don't actually own because I feel like that's the easiest way to do this. So first we have Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. This has obviously only come out recently, but I feel like I've been seeing it everywhere for a while now because people were so excited for this sequel to come out, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read a Mortal Instruments book in like years, but the fact that this one has so much hype and this whole series has so much hype surrounding it is kind of making me want to pick up this trilogy. I don't know if I will do it, and if I do, it will take a very long time for me to get to it, but I've honestly just been hearing so many things about it that I've kind of been debating getting back into that world. So that is a big thing, but that has just been everywhere, especially lately. Next is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. I actually don't even know what this book is about. I just know that I saw it everywhere and people seemed to be loving it, so I have been intrigued by it because of that, but this is definitely a romance novel that a lot of people have been talking about this year, so maybe I'll have to check it out. Next is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I was kind of hesitant to include this book on this list because I feel like the hype was more so in 2017, but quite a few people mentioned it. They mentioned Muse of Nightmares, which I feel like didn't get as much buzz as I was expecting, but this is a book that I didn't like personally, but I can totally see the appeal in it, and it is definitely one that has been talked about a lot since its publication. It's just, I don't know if it was 2017 more so than 2018. So now I'm going to talk about the books that came out in a different year, but they had a sudden resurgence because they were adapted into film this year. So first we have one that I don't own and I haven't gotten the chance to see the movie yet, but that is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, which I am honestly so excited to read it and then see the movie. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, unfortunately, but I have heard nothing but amazing things about it. Next is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily Danforth. This is a book that really brings to light something you don't get to see a lot. I actually haven't read the book, but I did see the movie, and the movie was so well done. It focuses on conversion therapy, so it's definitely not an easy watch, but it is an important one. Next is, of course, The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, which was adapted into an amazing film that I hope gets all the awards this award season. It's also been so nice to see this book hold its spot at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list for so long. It's just so great that this story is getting the publicity that it deserves. Next is, of course, To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, which was adapted as a Netflix film, and that way it found an entirely new audience that just fell in love with this story, and mostly Peter Kavinsky. Next is Dumpling by Julie Murphy, which has seen a sudden resurgence since the release of the Netflix adaptation recently, and this is once again a book that I'm really glad is getting out there again for an entirely new audience because I think it's a story that a lot of people will be able to relate to. Next is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken, which the film came out earlier this year, and then a lot of people were talking about the book again, which is good because the book is amazing. And finally, Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This had a similar sort of thing to All the Boys I've Loved Before, where the story ended up reaching beyond the bookish community, and I think that's amazing because this is once again a story that a lot of kids will be able to relate to, a lot of gay youth in particular, and I think this is a story that has the power to change people's lives and really help those who are going through a difficult time. If you wanted to know more of my thoughts on any of those adaptations, Bookmas Day 16 was focused all on that, so I will leave the link for that down below. Next, I wanted to talk about some sequels. So first we have A Reaper at the Gates by Saba Tahir, which is the long-awaited third installment in the An Ember in the Ashes series that I haven't read this one yet, but I'm very excited for it and I've heard some really amazing things. Basically, I'm just anticipating it is going to be a very hard read. It's going to break my heart, but I'm very ready for it. Next is Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This was the series finale to the Illuminae files, so this intense sci-fi epic has finally reached its end, which is very bittersweet, but I think I heard something about a movie movie adaptation for the series, so that's awesome. Next is Thunderhead, which is the sequel to Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I feel like this book got more buzz than Scythe did when it first came out, and I read Scythe before it came out and really enjoyed it, so I was very happy to see this book giving that book the attention that it deserved, and I haven't gotten the chance to read the sequel yet, but I am so excited to get to it. Next is Vicious and Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. I don't actually own Vengeful because I don't know if I'm gonna read it. I was really satisfied with the ending of Vicious, and it was, I believe, only supposed to be a standalone novel, so I just don't know if I want to continue with the series, but I know that this book has seen another sudden resurgence because of the release of Vengeful, which came out very long after this book came out. Next is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli, which is the sequel or companion to Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and this was actually really a big year for Becky Albertalli because there's 3 books with her on this list, but this is kind of a polarizing sequel. I liked it the first time that I read it, but then I was talking to some other people about it, and I realized there were some things that I didn't really like, but I may have just been not paying attention to them because I wanted to love the story so much, which tends to happen sometimes. But whatever way you felt about it, this definitely got a lot of buzz leading up to its release. And finally, for sequels, of course, we have Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I feel like there are probably some sequels that I'm missing, but this is definitely one that had to be on this list because this is the epic series finale for Throne of Glass, which we have been waiting so long for, and I still need to read it because this is just an absolute beast. I also did a whole video on Bookmas Day 10 about series that ended this year, so if you wanted to watch that, I will link it down below. Basically, any related Bookmas videos, I will have them linked down below. And now the rest of the books on this list are just random, so of course I couldn't do a video about Buzz Books of 2018 without talking about The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I would say that this book is tied with The Hate U Give and another book that I will talk about in a second for being the top 3 most talked about books of the year, because oh my god, everywhere I look, everyone is screaming from the mountaintops about how much they love Evelyn Hugo, and I haven't gotten the chance to read it yet, but I believe it is going to be the first book that I pick up in 2019, so hopefully it will keep the tradition of my first read of the year being on my top 10 list alive, but I guess we shall see. I don't know anything about it because I don't want to, but everyone has been going wild over this. I also am really curious when this came out because I feel like it came out of absolutely nowhere and people were just talking about it a lot. 2017 it looks like, so I don't know why all of a sudden this has seen sudden popularity, but I'm gonna see why in 2019. So of course the other book I was talking about is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This is one of those books that reached beyond the bookish community and saw a major boost in popularity just in general before it came out. After it came out, it has been everywhere, and it really is a great book. It is a magical fantasy based in African culture, and it is beautiful, such a rich and diverse story, and exactly what we needed in the bookish universe, since clearly it took everyone by storm. Next is Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. This is a book that sparked a lot of discussion this year, and I personally read it and I thought it was okay. Like, I thought I was entertained and that was what I wanted, so I was happy with that, but I've talked more about my issues in a different video, but I thought that the audiobook was great. It was really entertaining and fun to read, but whether it's good or bad, this book has been talked about a lot this year. Next is Fury Born by Claire Legrand. This epic fantasy has been discussed a lot by a lot of people, and it's once again one that has pretty polarizing opinions, but I really liked it and I'm excited for the sequel. Actually, the rest on this list have pretty polarizing opinions. So next is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I fell on the side of liking this one as well. I thought it was a really cool, creepy, dark fantasy, and I think this is one that was talked about a lot in 2017 leading up to its January release date, and I think the reason it was talked about so much is 1, because of the beautiful cover, and 2, it has a very interesting, cool concept to it with the dark fairy tales and all that stuff. Next is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This has been buzzed about all year long, and then with The Wicked King coming out in January, the series is just going to get even more hype surrounding it. A lot of people really fell in love with this brutal fairy story, and I did as well. I really enjoyed it. Next is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. This was so anticipated because it is 2 really big names in the contemporary YA scene right now, so everyone, including myself, was very excited to see how they would write together, especially since they are such great friends, and unfortunately I didn't love this story, but I can definitely see what people would like about it. And finally we have Sadie by Courtney Summers. This came out of nowhere. I had heard nothing about this book, and then I was hearing everything about this book, particularly the audiobook, because the audiobook is super cool, unlike anything I've ever listened to before. It's like a podcast format, so it just works perfectly for the story. I highly recommend that you check the podcast out. I do have an Audible link down below for 2 free audiobooks if you wanted to check it out, but especially around Halloween, 2018, this was definitely a very hyped up book. So those are all of the buzz books of 2018. I know there's probably some that I forgot on this list. I know there might be some that you guys hear about a lot, but I haven't really heard anything about. So let me know what you think the top 3 buzzed books of 2018 are. I'd be very interested to see how everyone's is going to differ. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I'm posting a new video every single day right up until Christmas. You can also follow me on all of my social media. All of my handles and links and all of that stuff will be down below for you guys. So I will see you guys tomorrow for Bookmas Day 20, where I'm going to be showing you every single book that I read in 2018. So that's going to be a long video to film and I'm not looking forward to it, but I will see you tomorrow with that. Bye!